Welcome to Preferred Professionals of America. Your host, Melissa Castellano, will be speaking to his
to try to rebuild what you lost. That's ultimately the goal. And, hopefully I can make you look as good as you did before your surgery. And if I'm lucky, I can make you look better. And, that's ultimately what it's all about, is trying to get you where you want to be again.
And to who you were. And that I read, and I just thought that was extremely impactful, because no matter who you are in a circle, somebody who has been impacted in some way or another. So to think about those people personally, that's what you want in your physician. That's what you want in your doctor. So I thought that was extremely impactful. And now, doctor, what specific challenges you encounter in your work, particularly when treating the patients that have breast cancer or they have the BRCA gene? How do you address them?
Well, I think the biggest hurdle I think that we all face is just expectations, right? How people see themselves versus how other people see them, and what they expect after surgery. I think that's the biggest hurdle, is to try to give people a real sense of what's possible, what's not possible, and what we can accomplish. And I think that's the biggest hurdle I find in most people, is that they either have done way too much Google searching or maybe not enough. And
Right.
So it's really about trying to get them the correct information, trying to get them to understand what the options are, what options are good for them, what options may not be good options for them, and kind of where things land. And so it's really, I think that's the biggest hurdle, is just what people think they should expect.
Right. And your patients, and going back to that comment before, your patients often describe you as both compassionate and honest. And that's where that honesty comes from what you just said. And so how do you balance delivering that difficult news with maintaining that trust and that emotional well-being?
Well, I think the biggest thing is always to be honest. Don't sugarcoat things and make it seem like something is possible when it's not. I mean, you don't do yourself or your patient any favors by telling them, oh yeah, we can do that, no problem, no big deal, it's going to be perfect, when that's not what's going to happen. And so, you're much better off saying, here's what we can do, here's what you should expect, here's what I think it will look like when all is said and done, so that when stuff happens, they know that these are all things that are possible, versus I cannot make you look like a 20-year-old supermodel when you're 65.
Right. So, right, that honesty and those realistic expectations. And so in your field, are there any emerging technologies or techniques that excite you, and how do you see them shaping the future of surgery?
Well, there's actually quite a lot of things going on in plastic surgery in this day and age. There's a lot of, well, I mean, from a not technical standpoint, but in the office kind of standpoint, there's a lot of computer stuff that has added and made things simpler. Some of it is AI based, some of it is just simply streamlining things, which makes it easier to avoid having to do hours of paperwork, which is always, on our heads. In the OR, there's all sorts of different things that are coming down the pike. I was actually reading an article a month ago, maybe, about a collagen-based implant for breast. So there's all sorts of new things coming down the pike that are probably going to be here in the next few years that will really shift how we do things.
Right. I don't know how much you know about that, but can you talk a little bit more about that collagen-based implant? Will it form to you?
Yeah, so what it is basically it acts as a scaffolding that the body can then turn into itself. It's still in very early, very early experimental stages. But I mean, if they get this working, that's revolutionary.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
will really just change how we do everything.
And I can see how that can excite you, but that excites like me on another side that can be a patient and having that option. So
Yeah.
certainly exciting and something to look forward to.
Absolutely, because then you're talking about, not really foreign body. You're not talking about giant surgeries. These are things that become very sort of routine
It
almost.
takes the risk out of a lot.
Yeah, it definitely decreases risk, and that's always important. You want to do the safest thing possible anytime. And, I had patients today, and I always tell them, I'm going to do whatever is the safest at that time. And so I can't guarantee you what I'm going to be able to do because I won't know until I get in there.
Right. Right. And it takes that away. So that's certainly exciting. So Doctor, you have been named the Empowered Women in Medicine and Patient Preferred Physicians Top Industry Experts, which are all incredible honors. Can you tell me what these recognitions mean to you personally and professionally?
Well, it means I've been doing a good job, which is always
Certainly.
nice to know. It's when you've been doing this as long as I have, sometimes you forget that, you hope that you're doing a good job. You hope that you're taking care of patients well. And sometimes you just forget that, nobody really necessarily notices. And every once in a while you get this kind of recognition, which is, it's very humbling to know that what I do matters to people. So,
And
yeah,
it certainly does. Yeah. And what advice would you give to women pursuing careers in medicine and surgery?
I think the biggest thing I can say is be yourself. Don't change who you are to suit someone else's idea of you. You have to stay true to what it is that who you are and what you want to do. Because the second you start altering who you are, you're not going to succeed in what you do.
And do you mean that in your professional interactions or in your patient and doctor interactions?
I think it's true in both. I think that, professionally, you want to always strive to do the best work that you can do. And in patient relationships, don't lie to people. Right? Just tell them the truth.
Yeah, go back to that honesty.
Yeah, you have to tell them the truth. And you have to, you don't have to be mean about it, but the reality is the reality, and you can't necessarily change that. And so you have to give them, again, it's all about expectations and how to be realistic about it. And honesty is key. You can't just sugarcoat things and make it sound like something is great when it's not.
And definitely bringing back that honesty and then that compassion. And sometimes as a patient, and I'm sure you encounter this, it's hard to hear at first, but I'm sure that they always come back after getting the news or seeing the results at the end. And I'm sure they certainly appreciate that. more when it's over?
I think, I think that what I can say is my personality is not for everyone. I
Okay.
am, so I think that the majority of my patients are my patients because they appreciate the fact that I will be honest with them about what they should expect. And I have lots of my patients who always tell me, this was hard and you got me through it because you always told me that this is what's going to happen. And when it happened, I didn't stress about it. And I knew that was what was going on. And so, like I said, you're not going to get along with everyone because that life isn't built that way. But I think as long as you stay true to yourself and you're true with your patients, you're going to do a good job. Ultimately, that's what it's all about.
Excellent advice. Absolutely. And I don't mean to chuckle. My chuckle is because of being a patient on the other side of those honest doctors sometimes. And you say, your personality is not for everyone. I'm telling you, they probably always come back around and appreciate that honesty when things are done. So
I appreciate that.
Excellent advice. What is the most rewarding part of your job and what keeps you motivated to keep making a difference in your patients' lives?
The most rewarding part of my job is when my patients get through their treatment and they're kind of on the other side of things and they can look back at it. And because when you're in the middle of all of it, it's really hard to be able to kind of not be stressed about it, not be anxious about it. It's really hard to be in the middle of chemo going, I'm going to get through it because, people they feel horrible. They don't, they can't eat, they can't sleep, they don't feel good. And when they get to the other side of things, it's like all of a sudden they're like, oh, wow, I did get through it and I'm okay. And I managed to get through it. And now I'm stronger for it and I can live with the rest of my life. And that's really the best part of it is when patients get through their treatment and now they're feeling better. So that's the best part for me.
Definitely, certainly rewarding for sure. And outside of your surgical work, you have some hobbies and interests. Well, what hobbies and interests help you find the balance? I kind of know what they are, but go ahead and share them with our listeners.
Well, so this is Arizona, so hiking is a wonderful thing to do this time of year. So I try to get out on the mountains every weekend that I possibly can because the weather is lovely and the views are great. I ballroom dance, which is one of the big things that I love to do, which is it's social, it's good exercise, and it gets you right out of your head. So
that's wonderful.
The big thing I love to do.
Yeah. Oh, very nice. So you're deeply committed to supporting women with breast cancer. Are there any initiatives or programs that you're involved in to help advocate or assist these patients?
So the biggest things that I'm involved in is the American Cancer Society, which does a lot for breast cancer. I used to be involved with Susan G. Komen, but they're not here anymore. So it's hard to be involved with them. And then some of the local organizations here in Phoenix that do a lot to help women with breast cancer.
Very nice. And what do you hope to achieve in the next phase of your career? And how do you envision expanding your impact within your community and beyond?
Oh, that's a tricky one. Well, I think the biggest thing that I would like to do is teach. I think it's important to have the next generation know how to take care of patients, how to treat patients. So I think that's kind of on my agenda for the next round of things. And I think that would be where I'd make the most impact as well, is just to be able to instill a sense of care. And I think that's the thing that is the most important.
Well, those students would be very lucky to have you, and that is a wonderful goal. And if there was one last message that you can leave your patients and colleagues, what would it be?
I think the biggest message that I would leave patients and colleagues is that you will get through it. That's the most important thing, right? That this is all temporary and you'll get through it.
Yeah, certainly an important one as well. Well, Doctor, I really appreciate you being here with us today. Did you want to add anything for our listeners?
I just think that people need to go into their healthcare, just being realistic, having real expectations, and knowing that they'll get through it. That's really the biggest thing.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for being here with us today. And we'll leave some more information for our listeners to find out how they can look more into your work, Doctor. So thank you so much.
Have a great night.
You too.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Preferred Professionals of America podcast. I hope you enjoyed our conversation with Dr. Rimma Finkel and gained valuable insights into the world of plastic and reconstructive surgery. If you would like to learn more about Dr. Finkel and her work, be sure to visit her website at www.drfinkelmd.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast for more inspiring stories and expert advice from leaders in various fields. Until next time, I'm your host, Melissa Castellano, wishing you health and happiness always.